Hello Red Case listeners. Welcome back to our channel that discusses true crime stories that really happened around the world. We hope that you are all in good health and kept away from danger. Today, we bring you one of the most haunting crimes ever captured on video, a murder at a cemetery in broad daylight with cameras rolling. This is the murder of Maritza Martin. Every crime has a beginning, and often it starts with a relationship. For Maritza Martin and Emilio Nuñez, their love story began in the Cuban-American community of Florida in the late 1970s. They were young, passionate, and like many couples, full of dreams for the future, but what began as love soon morphed into a toxic, volatile relationship. Maritza eventually realized that Emilio had a darker side, controlling, possessive, and prone to rage. As the years passed, arguments escalated into full-blown battles. By the time their daughter Yoandra was a toddler, Maritza made the painful decision to end the marriage, hoping to protect herself and her child from Emilio's growing instability. What followed was a brutal custody battle that lasted years. Maritza fought for sole custody of Yoandra, claiming Emilio was emotionally volatile and unsafe. The courts agreed. Emilio was barred from contacting his daughter, and a restraining order was issued. For Emilio, this wasn't just a legal defeat, it was personal. It planted the seeds of resentment that would only grow more dangerous over time. For years, Emilio remained on the sidelines, simmering, watching from afar, as Maritza raised their daughter without him. As Yoandra entered her teenage years, life was far from simple. Like many teenage girls, she was navigating the pressures of school, identity, and family conflict. But on top of the usual teenage struggles, she carried the burden of a fractured family. Her relationship with her mother was sometimes strained. Maritza was described by some as a strict parent, perhaps trying to keep her daughter from making mistakes, perhaps overcompensating for the chaos caused by Emilio. Behind closed doors, there were arguments, misunderstandings, and emotional distance. In November 1992, a devastating secret came to light. 15-year-old Yoandra was 13 weeks pregnant. The discovery shook the entire family. Who was the father? Why hadn't anyone noticed sooner? What support did she have? But instead of rallying around her, the family fractured even further. According to reports, Yoandra felt overwhelmed, isolated, and desperate. On a cold November evening, Yoandra took her own life. Her suicide shattered both Maritza and Emilio. But for Emilio, it became more than grief. It became obsession. Emilio couldn't accept the truth. He refused to believe that his daughter had chosen to end her own life. In his mind, someone had to be responsible. His fury turned toward Maritza. He became convinced, without evidence, that his ex-wife was either directly responsible for Yoandra's death or that her husband had abused their daughter. These were claims investigators repeatedly dismissed. Law enforcement found no signs of abuse, no evidence of foul play, but Emilio wasn't convinced. He began telling anyone who would listen that Maritza had blood on her hands. His obsession consumed him every waking moment. It didn't take long for the media to catch wind of this highly emotional story. A young girl dead by suicide, a grieving, enraged father, and an embattled mother accused, publicly, of unspeakable acts. A Spanish-language news show, Acurio ACI, known for sensationalist coverage, decided to feature the story. Reporter Ingrid Cruz arranged to meet Emilio at the cemetery where Yoandra was buried. Cameras were set. Microphones ready. This wasn't going to be a quiet, respectful memorial. It was going to be a confrontation, and the cameras were eager for drama. January 18, 1993. A day that would become infamous, the film crew arrived early. Emilio stood by his daughter's grave, eyes hollow, burning with fury and sorrow. Cameras captured every breath, every gesture. Then Maritza arrived. She came alone, dressed in quiet, simple clothes. Her intention was to visit her daughter's grave in private. But privacy was a luxury she wouldn't be granted. Reporter Ingrid Cruz immediately spotted her, sitting in her car, and charged over with her microphone. Banging on the window. Demanding answers. Hurling accusations, Maritza sat. Frozen. Silent. Refusing to engage. What was going through her mind in that moment? Was it fear? Exhaustion? Or simply grief? We'll never truly know. As the confrontation dragged on, Emilio quietly walked away from the grave, heading toward his car. Witnesses later described him as eerily calm, methodical, as if following a plan. Maritza, perhaps sensing danger, stepped out of her car. She pulled out a pen and paper and jotted down Emilio's license plate number. A small, subtle act that suggests, on some level, she knew something terrible might happen, but she stayed. Despite the yelling, despite the tension, she turned her back to the chaos and walked toward her daughter's grave. Suddenly, Emilio appeared again, but this time he wasn't empty-handed. In his hand, a 9mm semi-automatic pistol. Without warning, Emilio raised the gun and fired. The first shot hit Maritza in the back of the head. She collapsed to the ground, instantly motionless. But he didn't stop. He stood over her and fired again. And again. Bullet after bullet into her now lifeless body. Screams erupted. The reporter fled, yelling. The cameraman trembled but kept filming, paralyzed by fear and instinct to capture the moment. The entire murder was caught on tape. The footage was raw, brutal, horrifying. For the first time, the world watched as a murder unfolded, unfiltered, uncensored. On camera, news stations debated whether to show the footage. Some blurred it. Others aired it, sending shockwaves through viewers worldwide. The video later appeared in the infamous shockumentary Traces of Death, and almost a decade later in Michael Moore's Bowling for Columbine. As an example of gun violence in America, it became one of the most infamous murder recordings in modern history. Police arrived quickly. Emilio made no attempt to flee. In custody, Emilio was unrepentant. He told officers he felt no guilt. In his mind, he had avenged his daughter. The trial dragged on for years, finally concluding in 2000. The prosecution showed the footage. Jurors watched, horrified, as the crime played out in real time. Emilio was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. But for those who knew Maritza, and even those who simply witnessed the horror on TV, justice felt hollow. Today, Maritza and Yoandra lie side by side in the cemetery where both lost their lives, one to despair, the other to violence. Left behind was Maritza's 18-month-old son, now forced to grow up without a mother. The story of Maritza Martin is more than just a murder. It's a warning. A warning about the dangers of obsession, unchecked grief, and how the media's hunger for sensationalism can push volatile situations toward the brink. It's a reminder that sometimes the greatest threat doesn't come from strangers. It comes from those who once said, "I love you." Thank you for watching Red Case. If this story moved you, if you believe more people need to hear the truth behind real crime, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Stay safe. Stay alert. And remember, sometimes, reality is far more terrifying than fiction.